Yahshua.
Thank you. Thank you,
Another
Yahshua.
day.
Thank you once again for another day that we have to be together and to worship Him and to, like I said, be together on this wonderful day. This will be a short day, or it will be a
Long day.
long day, it's according, because I don't have, right now, I don't have anything in particular that He's given me to teach you on, but He's kind of led me in a way, I guess, because in the last, well, just about ever since I've been teaching, but it's just, He's just teaching me more and more and more, and it's so contradictory, I guess is the best word, to a lot of other doctrines that you hear today, whether it's in the Christian faith or whether it's in the Messianic or take your choice. It's in His revelation to me, it's becoming more contradictory to either one, and I say either one of them because they would be the thing nearest to what I do teach. So, but I neither teach Messianic or Hebrew roots, nor do I teach Christianity, the doctrines of Christianity or the doctrines of the other, because Yahshua just doesn't show me that. Now, He shows me His way, and I know a lot of us, and including myself, when He brought me out of Christianity and began to bring me into the way that I'm in, that He's got me now, I zealously looked at the Hebrew roots, if you would, or Messianic. I zealously looked at them because knowing that what I was in was not was not favorable to Yahshua and the following of Yahshua. I looked at that, and well, if this is wrong, if some of this is wrong, then this is probably right, because it leads to his heritage, if you will, and I'm referring to the Hebrew or Israelite heritage that he was. And so I looked at it more favorably than I did the other, and tried to figure it out, try to follow in it, but in doing so, He's led me into their teaching is not any closer really than the teaching that I came out of. And so anyway, where He's led me to now, I know is contradictory to both. And neither of them agrees with me, nor do I them. So, I guess the feeling's mutual. But anyway, I just wanted, I guess, or He led me to desire, maybe, as I said, a lot of y'all went the same way I did, the same route I did. When you've seen that one way wasn't the exact way, you went the other and tried to follow it. And now I have found that both does teach some truth, but that both also leads to the fact that, Yahshua warned us that that they would be doctrines, and doctrines some that would be so close that if it were possible, it would fool the very elects. But he would not let that happen if we put our faith and our trust in him and be led by his Spirit. That he would not let that happen. And anyway, I'm looking today to see, I guess, to mark where we're all in agreement at, because I like to know, I guess, that what I am trying to get across to anyone that will listen, but y'all are the faithful ones, that I am reaching you, and of course y'all being faithful is one sign that I am, but I just, if there's any disagreements up till now, or whatever, I would like to try and help, us all be in agreement, because, Yahshua teaches us that, or the Scriptures teaches us that we must be in agreement in order to walk together. And I've seen it in my ministry, if you will. I've seen many come in and seem to be really enthused, but well, they're not here now. So you seem like you have agreements, but eventually someone's either imagination or their beliefs, or whatever how you want to put it, disagrees. And I just want to, I guess, find out more about our agreements and disagreements, or whatever today, than anything else. Now, like I said, this may be a shortest thing, or it might be the longest thing. Now, when I get y'all's input, if you want to put an input in, maybe it will bring something out that we need to look at in the Scriptures, and the way that the Scriptures writes it or tells us. So, in that case, it could be a longer. But right now, I'm just kind of opening up this session of fellowship for this week to anyone's opinions in the way that we're trying to lead, So that's what it's all about today, and that's what I want. And that's I started it out. I even started out with blowing. I've got this going just in case there is a teaching that we teach on, but if there ain't, there won't be nothing this week. But anyway, I'll edit out the parts that if there is a teaching, or if there is something we need to talk about, then I'll edit out the other stuff. But anyway, I'm opening this up to y'all's opinion and y'all's Thoughts? So, I'm going to give somebody else the floor to, if you really believe that or think that I am in the way, before I do open it up, if I'm not called by Messiah, then my ministry is no good. And it basically will end up being a false ministry because he's not called me to start with. But if it is, then we need to be in agreement with that. And that's where I'm coming from today is, we need to be in agreement. And I haven't heard anybody say anything. I haven't heard any, y'all been listening to me and, every Sabbath and, y'all been hearing, but I would like to know, if we really are in agreement as we, or as I like to think we are, if that's okay.
That sounds good.
So, that's what what do you say? That's what I'm fishing today for,
My license.
to make everything, to make sure that we are in agreement and that we are walking together. So, don't be afraid. I can edit out whatever. If y'all don't want what you say, and more than likely, if I start teaching, I'll edit out everything but the horn in that teaching. So, don't be afraid to say something because it won't go nowhere else other than right here. So, anyway, anybody else got anything? Have you got any questions about what I have taught? I've been teaching here in the past few.
Man, I had stuff last week. I had some questions I was asked last week. I was trying to think. Trying to think of them now. Been studying and listening to and whatever. Some other stuff,
Uh-huh.
between then and now, but
I wish you didn't run them down.
You're bad as I am. You don't write them down, then you forget them. But,
yeah, but if I think of it, it might not be all that you was looking for. One thing I was looking for was the part about the upper room being, they might have not been in the upper room at the time because if they were in the upper room at one point, but then it didn't say they stayed in the upper room, it later said they were in one place.
right.
Or they were in a house, or,
Uh-huh.
that kind of things. I don't know how much difference that really makes, but just the way we've read into everything, like the time you was pointing out the fact that I think you was the first one that pointed that out to me, that it says that he said many shall come in my name.
Uh-huh.
They'll come in his name and deceive many, and I always took that they would say that they were the Messiah and deceive many.
Yeah.
But then I saw that as they would come and say that Yahshua was the Messiah and deceive many, because they would say he was the Messiah, but they wouldn't teach his doctrine. They would teach their own doctrine.
Exactly. And that's exactly, Patty, what he's saying there, because and that's in the 24th
Look
chapter.
at it now, it's
It's in the 24th chapter of Mark. I'm sorry, my Bible's at Mark, but it's in the 24th chapter of Matthew is where it's at. And it is in either Mark or Luke too, but because that's where that, if I'm not mistaken, he had just come out of the temple. And teaching or trying to teach the Sadducees and the Pharisees and the doctors and all of this. He was trying to teach them who he was, trying to tell them who he was. And he even got to the point that he really got pointed with them, calling them hypocrites and everything else, because they claimed that they believed in the law and claimed to keep the law, but really and truly they didn't even know a whole lot about the law. But anyway, he had just come out of that, and he had just come out of that meeting, if you would, and he was more or less standing on the, if you will, at the door or on the steps of the temple or wherever he was standing there, and or wherever he had got to when he came out. And he cried out himself, "Oh Jerusalem, Jerusalem, that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee. How often would I have gathered thy children, even as a hen gathereth her chickens, under the wings, and you would not." And in other words, he had just come out of that temple, trying to teach them, and then even discipline them, if he would, calling them hypocrites, whited sepulchres, because they were confessing one thing but teaching another. And I'm just kind of bringing you up a little bit here where you're referring to and talking about here. But anyway, he makes this, he cries out, "Oh Jerusalem, how often would I have gathered you, but you would not. You'd rather follow your own," and here we go again, "you'd rather follow your own imaginations and your own thoughts and your own teachings and your own beliefs rather than to follow the truth of Yahweh. You would rather do that." And by the way, that's the same way today in the Christian faith, and the Gentiles are Israelites as it was then. They had rather now figure out their own way and their own salvation than. And I know the Scripture says, "Work out your own salvation," but that's the way they're doing that is not what he's referring to. And if you would study it, you would know that that's not what he's referring to, or what the Scripture is referring to. Because the Scriptures strictly teach there's one way. There's one Lord, there's one faith, there's one baptism, there's one God who is above all, through all, and in us all. Yahshua taught strictly to himself, "I am the way." And that don't mean you can believe on me any way you want to believe and do whatever you want to do as long as you believe on me or believe that I am the Messiah. Do you understand what I'm saying? As long as you believe I'm the Messiah, then you can go out here and believe any way or follow your own way of worshiping me and serving me that you want. That's not what he said.
Right.
I am the way, and you follow according to what I teach. And a lot of people, and I seen it just posted about people that was, don't lose your train of thought, George. the people that was coming out of the Feast of Tabernacles, which has just come to a close. And if I get my train of thought back here, they're teaching what they believe to be the truth. They're actually going back. They don't, and just because they're claiming to that the Messiah and confessing that the Messiah is the Messiah, that Yahshua is the Messiah, then they can go back and follow the Mosaic law. And they're even teaching that he, and that's what I said was thought was going to be posted was, or that I saw was posted, that he showed them how, or he showed us how to follow the law, and that's a lie. He did not come to show us how to follow the law. He came to fulfill the law so that you and I do not have to fulfill the law. It is fulfilled in us through him. And that's what I teach. That's what I try to teach. But others, they're teaching all other things. And that is, anyway, let me get back to this. When he came out of the temple there, and he cried out these words that I just read to you and quoted to you. He told them. He finally told. He made the confession right there. You are not going to see me henceforth until you say, "Blessed is he that cometh in the name of Yahweh." Baruch haba b'shem Yahweh. Blessed is he, if you want it in Hebrew, blessed is he that cometh in the name of Yahweh. And today, their eyes, as the scriptures teaches us, their eyes are still blinded by the veil that was over the face of Moses, because they did not see what Moses saw. They did not even understand what Moses was teaching, just as people today don't. But anyway, his disciples came to him there and said, when he came out of the temple and he made this proclamation, and he came out, and his disciples went with him as he departed, from the temple. But his disciples wanted to show him something there. Look at what a beautiful thing. All of this that man has built to Yahweh. Look at this beautiful temple. Yahshua had no interest whatsoever in that temple, nor its beauty. What he had interest in was that people understand who he is and how to follow him. And he didn't give them an example of how to follow him. Not in the law. He gave them the example to follow him in that he obeyed every word that the Father had for him to do. And that is our example, that we obey every word that Yahshua teaches us to do. And when you understand that and start following that, then you don't you understand that it's not in the law of Moses that your salvation is in. Your salvation is where exactly Yahshua said it was. It's in your faith in him, and not in anything that you do. proclaiming it to be as a service to Him. It's your faith in Him. And the scriptures brings it out that faith came before the law. Faith was established before the law. And I know I'm going a long way around about what you're talking about there. But I'm getting to it. Just hang with me, because I'm also trying to teach that man's way, and there's many ways out there right now today. I'd say there's more ways now than there was even when the disciples was teaching, and they saw many and was persecuted because of many of the man's ideals of how to serve God. But there's so much more now. And Yahshua warned of that. He warned that it was coming. But anyway, to get back to the temple and get on back to this, when his disciples was trying to show, look what a beautiful thing that man has built for you and for Yahweh. Look what this beautiful thing is. And like I said, he had no interest in this earthly temple. It served its purpose, but now he has come. It served its purpose in that it kept Israel until he could come. He has no earthly interest in that temple anymore. He even tells them, you see all of this beautiful stuff man has done? And my understanding is it had golden doors and, different rooms of it was gold. It was the richest of the earth, that temple was. But he said, you see all of this? Every bit of it. You see it? And he was talking about the temple, though it's not the temple that David had built. It's the second temple, but it's still in accordance with that temple and with the tabernacle prior to the first temple. The tabernacle, the first temple, the second temple, and now that it was still standing at that time. But Yahshua said, you see all of this? There's not going to be one stone set upon another. In other words, this is all going to be destroyed. And we find and we study that in about 70 A.D., Titus, not the Titus of the Bible, but Titus, a soldier in the Roman army and a leader in the Roman army, came into Jerusalem, and he destroyed the city and he destroyed the temple. Completely destroyed it. And if you catch what Yahshua is saying here, and understand what Yahshua is saying here, he's telling them, they are not following me. They're not putting their faith in me. They're still putting their faith in what I came to abolish in order that man's salvation could be accomplished. Because the other, and when I'm talking about the law, the Mosaic law and the temple worship and all of that, none of that could ever save nobody. Nobody was ever saved under it or by it and by the obedience of it. It was only there for one purpose, and that was to keep them until he could come, which could provide the salvation for man, or would provide salvation for man. He told them, said, there's not going to be a stone set upon another that shall not be thrown down. In other words, this too is going to pass away. This too is going to be abolished. And when he went on out to the Mount of Olives there, and him and his disciples sat down, they come to him because he had just told them all of this, and here is beautiful temple standing there, and he's telling them, "Hey, ain't none of it, ain't going to be a stone set upon another that's not going to be thrown down." And he goes up to the Mount of Olives with his disciples, and they're looking at, no doubt in amazement, and no doubt in a lot of confusion, if you will. Their minds wandering like, no telling, mine and yours gets to wondering about things. But they come to him and said, "Well, what's going to be the sign of thy coming?" And they're talking about his second coming. They understood at that time that he was going to come back, and the end of the world. What's going to be the sign of that? And Yahshua began to talk to them there, and he began to explain. And every one of you has read the 24th chapter, and a lot of people misunderstand it. And I think, Patty, I would be the one that pointed that out to you. That he says, "Take heed that no man deceive you." Don't be deceived. "For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Christ," or the Messiah. There's going to be many people come and say, "Yes, Yahshua is the Messiah." And they shall deceive many. Now, right there, like so many others, and even I did in years past, looked at that and thought, well, there's many coming and going to say that they're the Christ, and they're going to deceive many. I looked at it that way too years ago. But it's also been years ago, even before I came out of the denominational churches. Yahshua had done showed me that long before that. Before I ever came out, he showed this to me years ago. That's not what he's saying there. He's actually saying there's people coming, and they're going to say, "I am the Christ," that Yahshua is the Christ, and they're going to deceive many. And that's where, even then, he began to show me. There's not a denominational church. I don't care what you call themselves. I don't care what they call themselves. There's not a one of them that doesn't proclaim at least their Jesus. And I got a fault with that too. But anyway, at least they claim their Jesus is the Messiah. And every one of them. But every one of them teaches something different. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't be but one. They wouldn't be all these thousands of different denominations.
Right.
That everybody has separated and put on this corner and on this corner and on that corner, teaching.
Joy tried to get on.
Huh?
Can y'all? Joy.
Oh, she's trying to get on? Okay. Bring her on.
Okay.
But
I'm typing.
anyway, they wouldn't be, if they all agreed and they all taught, even though they all agree or say that he is the Messiah, if they all taught the same thing, there wouldn't be different denominations. They would only be one.
That's right.
And everybody would walk in that one agreement.
That's right.
And you see the same thing even in what we refer to today as the Messianic movement, is this one teaches this. This one teaches that. They all agree that Yahshua is the Messiah, but this one teaches this. This one teaches that. You can very easily see it in just this past feast, and their ways of determining when that feast is. You see their differences. But if Yahshua was teaching every one of them and revealing all of this to every one of them, then they would all be in one agreement. There wouldn't be no 2 or 3 different Feast of Tabernacles. Even though I know, at least, that even that is, in a sense, a denial of the Messiah and his power, trying to follow those things of the Old Covenant and Old Law, or Messianic Law, Mosaic Law. Not Old Law. His laws is always, although they're applied different, and they are applied to me and you different, they're even different than they was under the Mosaic Law. Because then they were earthly and upon earthly tablets of stone. Now they are spiritually up and upon tablets of the heart.
Well, look at the Pentecost and the holiness. And now look how far they are from what they used to teach 100 years ago.
That's just examples to know that that's exactly what he's saying there in that scripture. There's many going to come and say that he is the Messiah, but then they're going to deceive many. They're going to teach their imaginations and their doctrine,
And their beliefs.
and teach how this is and how that is. And believe me, I was wrapped up in it as tight as anybody else. Except that I did know there ain't but one way, even though I didn't know I wasn't in that way at the time. I only knew there was one way. At least he gave me that. But in telling you that, I'm not going to go through all of the signs that he's going to give here, because these signs are being over and over and over in every generation. These signs has been, the wars and rumors of wars, and but don't see that don't be troubled over them, because the end's not yet. And everybody right now is looking at everything that's going on out there in the world, the wars and the rumors of wars and this and that, and saying, boy, the end is coming. God said, no, that ain't what Yahshua said. Yahshua said, don't be troubled. The end's not yet. But they're trying to use those signs as saying the end is near.
Mm-hmm.
Even the fact that nation is rising against nation, they're using these scriptures, but they're not using them according to the way the scripture that Yahshua explained them. He is saying, don't be worried about all of that, because the end is not yet. He knows the end. The Father knows the end. And they're the only ones that does know the end. Our act, if you will, is to put our faith in them. Or, I'm sorry, I don't want to use the plural. I want to use the singular. Put our faith in Him, because the Scriptures teaches us that it pleased the Father that all the Godhead bodily would dwell in Him. In other words, I don't care what you do it in Him. And in His name. You can't please me. That's what the Father is saying. You can't please me unless you go through Him. And even a lot of the Messianics are bypassing him and hollering, Father, 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 Father this, Father that, Father done this, Father done that. I thank Father for this and I thank Father for that. Denying or not using the very one that the Father said to use. And that again tells me that something is wrong. But anyway, like I said, I don't have to tell all of those signs there. But I do want to tell you one more here. That explains what we originally thought that third verse, or I'm sorry, fifth verse said. You know, many shall come in my name, saying, or saying that I am the Messiah, and deceive many. To show you where he's talking about here, or show you that that wasn't what he was saying there, that many's going to, at that point there, that many's going to come and say that they are the Messiah and deceive many, because he gives that down here in the 23rd and 24th and 25th verses here, and I will read these to you. And it says, Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Messiah, or there, over there is Messiah, believe it not. For there shall rise false messiahs. In other words, there's going to become many false messiahs, saying that they are Messiah, proclaiming to be Messiah. For there shall arise false messiahs and false prophets, those that teach that this is the Messiah's word and this is the Messiah's doctrine. Many false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if possible, they shall deceive the very elect. And Yahshua warns them, Behold, I have told you before it happens. I've told you that it's going to happen, that's what's coming. Now, here is where he's talking about other false messiahs coming, and the false prophets of those messiahs coming. And I don't know about y'all, but I can think, other than just those that has decided and set their denomination over here and their denomination over there, and the different denominations. I can even think of one right off the bat that has a prophet that they proclaim, and now he doesn't claim to be the Messiah, but he claimed to be a prophet of the Messiahs, and he's teaching different. They teach different than they don't even consider themselves Christians, to my knowledge. I think I'm right on that.
He was even telling them about 24th verse back in Deuteronomy 13:1.
How that people would come.
Yeah.
But that's something we've got to understand. And I guess it took Yahshua. It didn't take Yahshua that long. It took me that long to be willing to listen to him when he revealed to me that there isn't but one way, and that is through faith in him. But I still wanted to hang on to doctrines that I had been taught all my life, or biggest part of my life. and I wanted to teach those doctrines. But even though I already knew that there was many coming, there were many already come and said he's actually the Messiah. Yeah, he's the Messiah, but you serve him this way and you serve him that way, and we're going to celebrate his birthday here, and we're going to celebrate his resurrection here, and we're going to change his because of his so-called resurrection on this day, we're going to celebrate this day as a Sabbath instead of using the Hebrew Sabbath as they referred to it. We're going to do this and we're going to do that, and that that is false doctrine. That's not the Messiah. And that's not him. Even though they are acknowledging that he came and that he is the Messiah, they're still teaching their own imaginations of their own and or of the imaginations of men before them that taught. They're hanging on to that, and that's what they're teaching for doctrine. The truth. Are teaching the truth for doctrine is that, and they're hanging on to those things. And that is, Yahshua warned them. He warned all of us. And that this is not the way that it is. And then he even, again, had Paul to warn the people. If any man comes teaching any other doctrine that has already been delivered to you, let it be accursed. Even if I come and I teach another doctrine, let it be accursed, because there is no other doctrine. And then in Colossians, where he teaches, don't follow the doctrines of man and the philosophies of man and after the rudiments of the world, but follow the Messiah and according to his truth and according to his gospel. Put your faith right there, not in anything that you do or think that you can do in order to honor him, but just put your faith in him and let his Spirit, which today our walk with the Messiah is not in any way carnal, but it is completely spiritual. And that is where man goes so far wrong, is to think that they can carnally do something that spiritually honors him, that would honor him spiritually.
Brother George?
Yes.
It also says not to, with the people who come to your door with a different doctrine, not to bid them Godspeed.
Right.
Either.
Right. And of course, we've got those that does that. That is something that, and I finding it in everything, everyone. And they have to do it in order to follow what they're following. Is everybody's right in some way, so we'll not stand against them because they're right in this, but they teach something else. You cannot mix, and Yahshua or Yahweh showed that in the following of the law. Yahweh showed you cannot mix what man thinks and what God says. You cannot mix it. You cannot well, okay, they teach this is right, and they're right in that. So even though they teach Christmas and they teach Easter and they teach the Sabbath being Sunday, they teach. We'll just agree to disagree, and they're okay and we're okay too. That is not God's way. God's way is standing for His truth and what He teaches, and teaching that, and then standing on that, and not being tossed to and fro, as I forget now if it's John or Peter or James teaches over there. You know, we're not to be tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine. And that's what it is. When they teach something, then that's their doctrine. If they teach the Sabbath is Sunday and we worship His birthday or celebrate His birthday on a certain December 25th, and we celebrate His resurrection on Easter Sunday, and that's their doctrine. And it's a false doctrine. It's not His doctrine. And we're not to follow after every wind of doctrine, but we are to look to Him, put our faith in Him, and let His Spirit lead us. And ladies and gentlemen, that will get you less friends in this world and more persecution than anything else. Everybody else has to agree. You know, I see Messianics that come out of the Christian faith, if you will, and or claim to, but yet right now they're as much in it as they are in the Messianic, because they're just saying, well, let's just agree to disagree. That's telling me you don't really know the truth. When you tell me, well, we'll agree to disagree, you're telling me you don't really know the truth, because if you really knew the truth, you would stand for that truth.
A double-minded man's unstable in all his ways.
In all of his ways. And that's what I've been trying to teach, and I got more people left this assembly than it's in it right now, because I teach that. And they want to say, well, you don't love your brethren, and you don't show forth the love that God tells us to show forth, because you stand against that. You know, you can't agree to disagree and just love them anyway. And this, I'm sorry, I cannot do it. I will stand for Him. If I'm the only one standing when He comes, I'll stand for Him. And you know, I talked about the 23rd chapter there. Read that 23rd chapter and see just how much love Yahshua was showing those people that He was talking to, the Pharisees and the Sadducees there. Show me how much love He was showing them when He was looking at them and saying, you bunch of hypocrites. Now in man's eyes, He's not showing any love there, because He's calling them a bunch of hypocrites because they ain't following Him. He's calling them a bunch of hypocrites, so He's not showing His love, but He is showing the whole love of the Father, because He's trying to tell them the right thing to do.
Yeah, amen.
He's trying to tell them the right thing to do. He's telling them, you're wrong. Get in the right way. You bunch of hypocrites. In other places He called them whited sepulchres. Or you may clean the outward, but inward you're full of a bunch of dead men's bones. That's not showing man's love or human love, because if He showed human love, He wouldn't have said that. He would have said, "You're going to be all right.
Yeah.
You're going to be all right. You'll learn one of these days.
Yeah.
God will show you one of these days." No, He told them, "You bunch of hypocrites, you're wrong. And when he walked out of that temple, he said, "Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how many times have I got to do this? How many times do I come to you? Like a chicken would gather her hens, or a hen would gather her chickens under her wings, but you won't do it." Now, he wasn't showing the human love there, if you want to refer to, oh, everything's going to be all right, we'll agree to disagree. No, he wasn't showing that.
A parent shows a child more love by giving them correction than to let them go.
Exactly.
Any old thing they want to do, right?
Exactly.
Grace and works, you know. But if you have faith, won't the works be there?
If you have faith, yeah, the work will be there. But what works are we referring to? Are we referring to the works of the flesh, of let's say obeying the law of Moses? Is that the works he's referring to? I dare tell you that is not what he's referring to. But what he is referring to, and I've said this here it's been a few weeks ago that I was talking about it, is that when you begin to put your faith in him, then the works that James talked about and that everyone else, that if you understand Paul, when he talks about it, the works that you will show forth will be the manifestation of the fruit of the Spirit. You'll show forth the love, your love by telling people the truth. You'll show forth the peace, the happiness, the joy. This will be what extrudes from you. And now a lot of people wanting to say, well, ain't patting everybody on the back and saying we'll agree to disagree and all this, ain't this showing the fruit? No, that is not showing God's love. Just like God didn't show them that love by saying, you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. He showed them his love by saying, you're a bunch of hypocrites and you're not doing this right. You're following your own imagination and your own laws. He said that when he looked at the people in the first, I don't know if it's the first chapter or first book, the second and third verses of that 23rd chapter there. The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat, and all therefore whatsoever they bid you observe and do, but do not ye after their works, for they say and do not. They tell you all of this, and they're showing you, if you know and if you understand what Moses taught. See, man did not see to the end because of the veil that was upon Moses, and Paul, I think it is, I forget what book it is now, speaks, no, maybe it's Hebrew. I forget now which book it is. But he's talking about that veil is still upon them to that day because they could not see beyond what Moses really was trying to teach them. Moses only taught them the law, and God only gave him the law, the physical or carnal laws that they were to observe, was for one purpose, if you will. And that was to keep them until the Messiah could come. That's what that law was. Why did he give it to Moses? Because when he came down on the Mount Sinai and he actually gave them what we refer to as the commandments, or the law of commandments, and then you've got to discern the difference there, because the scriptures teaches us that Yahshua abolished the law of commandments contained in ordinances. In other words, the physical carnal things that they did. He abolished all of that. But when Yahweh spoke to them the commandments, the laws of God, and gave them what we now and what the scripture refer to as the 10 Commandments. And then he called Moses back up on the mountain to give him those commandments. While Moses was up there, and I've said this I don't know how many times here lately, but while Moses was up there, the children of God disobeyed what they said we will do. They disobeyed it. And as I said before, in less than 40 days, I don't know how many, from day 1 to day 40, I don't know just when it was, but from day 1 to day 40, and within that period of time, the children of Israel completely disobeyed what they told God they would do. And so God gave Moses what referred to now as the Mosaic Law, or the commandments of ordinances, or the ordinances that they were to do, in order to keep them until the Messiah would come because of their disobedience. To keep them. Those things, I myself, I don't know all of them that God gave Moses. And I dare say there's not nobody here on earth today that knows everything that God gave Moses to do, or have the children of Israel to do. But I can tell you this thing right here. If you believe in keeping one of them, you better keep them all. Because if that's what's going to save you is through your obedience to that, and you doing that, then you're going to be judged by that. And if you break one of them, you're going to be guilty of every one of them. Mm-hmm. So your faith, if you claim that your worship to God is through them, then you better do every one of them.
But if you're saved by faith, don't you keep them? I mean, we've been taught to keep the 10 Commandments since we were little children, to not kill and not steal and not lie.
God gave, I put it the way Scripture does it. Yahshua gave them there was a man came to him one day and asked him, said, "Master, what shall I do to inherit the kingdom?" And Yahshua just simply spoke to him and told him to obey the commandments. And he was speaking, if you'll read there, he was speaking about the 10 Commandments that Yahweh gave the children of Israel there on Mount Sinai. He told him, said, "You keep them." And the man said, "Well, I've kept them from my youth up." Man thinks that he keeps them. But Yahshua showed him just one, that he wasn't keeping. When he said to him, because he was a rich man, he told him, said, "Okay, then go sell everything you got and give to the poor." Yahshua gave him an example that he wasn't doing what he thought he was doing.
We have to sell out to the world.
Yeah, he wasn't doing what he thought he was doing. Man today's claiming that keeping the commandments is not doing what they think they're doing.
Didn't he go away sorry?
He went away very sorry, because the Bible says he had much. And God turned back to the people. And he taught them. And he gave them 2 commandments then. to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then he says, there's one, and then he gives one more. And people, this right here, these two right here, people just does not understand and does not get. He said, and to love thy neighbor as thyself. And Paul, I believe it was Paul or one of the others, it might have, I forget now, but one of them said, you know, that all of the commandments are wrapped up in these two.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that? Well, number one, it's always been, well, wasn't it Peter's, or was it John that said, you know, was talking about the commandments, said, I write no new commandments to you, but then he turns around and said, I write one new commandment to you, that is to love thy neighbor as thyself, or to love thy brother as thyself. That's what he said.
In the 5th chapter of Galatians, and 18th verse said, but if ye be led of the Spirit, ye are not under the law.
Right. That is something that people just still don't understand. See, they as I said here not too long ago, they combine everything into one thing. Yahweh came down and he gave the law of the commandments, what we refer to as the commandments. Man broke those commandments, and then God gave them the law, which we refer to as the law of Moses, in order to keep man until the Messiah could come. But everybody wants to group all of this together, and they're not grouped together. The commandments that we're referring to now is the 10 Commandments. That's all God gave the children of Israel when he came down and spoke to them, and he had given Moses the word prior to it, telling them that he was going to, if they would obey him, that he would make them kings and priests, and for Moses to go and tell them that he was coming down on the third day, go and prepare for the third day I'm coming down. But prior to that, he said, he told Moses to tell him, said, if you just obey me, I will make you kings and priests. And I know I'm going a long way around again, but try to hang with me, because I'm trying to help people to understand the differences here. In the Old Covenant and the New Covenant are the law of love, and the law of the Old Covenant of thy brother that thou art thy brother's keeper, and that's important, because God, Yahshua, when he spoke to the children there after he had spoken to the rich man and gave them, and turned around and to the people, and he gave them these two, he abolished that one that said, that the fact that we was our brother's keeper. He abolished that, because I'm no longer responsible for you, and you're no longer responsible for me. What you do, you will be judged for. What I do, I will be judged for. I won't be judged for what you do, and you won't be judged for what I do. But under the Old Covenant, they was all treated as one. Anyway, trying to get back to that. Yahweh had told Moses, said, I'm coming down the third day, and I will, and you tell them, if they will obey me, I'll make them kings and priests. And he came down that third day. And all he said on that day was those 10 commandments. He didn't give them all that other stuff, and he didn't give the law of Moses at that time. He spoke those 10 commandments to those people, and he said, if you will obey, Well, to put it and make it shorter, they didn't obey. And you, in yourself, keeping these trying to keep these commandments, will not obey them. You will mess up in yourself. But if your faith is in Him and you follow that Spirit, that Spirit will fulfill them in you, and then that proceeds out of you, or that is manifested from you, will be the fruits. Or I'm sorry, because there's so many manifestations of the fruit. I want to say fruits plural, but it's fruit of the Spirit. Will be what comes from you. And those are the works that will show the world that you are God's child. Not that I nail I forget what they call it, Hebrew, and the Hebrew word, what it's called, but it's the thing that they nail to the post of their doors, the 10 Commandments on it. Or not that I wear the tzitzits on my, to remind me of the 10 Commandments. All of that is given to me through His Spirit. His Spirit is what leads me. His Spirit is what reminds me of that. His Spirit is what fulfills that in me. As long as my faith is in Him, and I put my faith in Him, and are being led by Him, that is what is protruded out of you. It's not the physical act of things I do. Even in the keeping of the commandments, it's not the physical act that I do that is making me what I am. It's the spiritual. What did I call it? The spiritual. Anyway, that comes from me. That is what it is. Man is still putting it upon himself to do things. Man has always put it upon himself that he does these things to honor God. The greatest honor you can do to God is to put your faith in Him and let Him be led and let yourself be led by His Spirit. That is the greatest honor that you can give God. Because if you do that, then everything else will be fulfilled in you. That is the hardest thing that man cannot get through his head, and he will never get through it. It will never get through man's head, because the Spirit has to do it. It has to draw you, and then it has to accept you. Not you accept it, but it accepts you. God calls you. You don't get up one day and say, I'm going to serve God. God calls you. And through that calling, we're accepted by Him. And the Spirit then, it's simple as 1, 2, 3, but yet it can be as difficult as 9 billion plus 909 million plus blah blah blah, whatever is going to make your mind go blank. It can be just that difficult. But it all depends on your faith in the Messiah, as how simple this is or how difficult it is. And man has to get it through his head that it's not nothing he does that causes it or gives honor to God, except the faith that he puts in God. And I know that it's hard to understand. And with man's mind and man's understanding, it cannot be understood. But with God, all things are possible. He can make us do it. But first, we've got to realize it, and we've got to put our faith in Him. And just to get back, when Yahweh came down and he gave those commandments, and then Moses went up into the mountain to receive those commandments, and while he was up there, man sinned, and God gave him the vision of the temple and the commandments of ordinances. In other words, the things that they had to do through the priest, and through the priesthood, and through the sacrifices, and through the offerings, and things that is contained in the law of Moses. God gave them because of man's disobedience, and it's brought out. And I quote it. I don't know how many times, and I remind people. I don't know how many times I've reminded people that, and he says it many times in his prophets, through his prophets, but the clearest one is through Jeremiah, his prophet Jeremiah. When he had Jeremiah to talk to the then children of Israel, and to tell them that Yahweh of hosts, the God of Israel, tells Jeremiah to tell the people of Israel to put your burnt offerings, all of this stuff that you do, put your burnt offerings unto your sacrifices, and eat the flesh yourself. Now through some of the flesh, some of the offerings, some part of the flesh was offered to through the burnt offering to Yahweh. But Yahweh's saying, you just do it all yourself. And he reminds them through Jeremiah, says, For I spake not unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. That ain't what I told them. That is not what I commanded them. What he commanded them was those commandments that he gave. And if they had just believed God as Abraham believed God, when God told Abraham to get up and get out, and I'll show you, and the world will be blessed through you. If they would have just believed God, then that's where it would have been ended. But then God's plan wouldn't have been completely fulfilled in that. They wasn't going to believe God. But if they had, I'm just saying if they had. But God is reminding them here, for I spake not unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. I didn't say a thing about those. But this thing commanded I them, saying, obey my voice. Now what did Yahweh tell Moses to tell the children to do in order to be made kings and priests? Obey me. You go and tell them that I'm coming down. But before he told them that, told him to go tell them that, he told Moses to tell the children of Israel, if you will obey me, I will make you kings and priests. That's all he asked. That's all he said. He didn't give all that other stuff. He gave that. You believe and obey me. But this thing commanded I them, saying, obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people. And walk in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well unto you. But they hearken not, nor incline their ear. They did not listen. They did not hear. But they walked in the counsels and in the imaginations. And that's where I get so much of my teaching, and where Yahshua has showed me even the very seed of sin is man's imagination. Now the tree from that seed is disobedience to God. But the very seed that brought forth the tree of disobedience was man's own imagination. And I'm in a process of writing some of that now. Someday I'll get it done when Yahshua gives it all to me. But the very seed is man's imaginations, and that's what God says here. You walked in the counsels and in the imaginations of their evil hearts, and went backwards and not forwards. Since the day that your fathers came forth out of the land of Egypt unto this day, I have even sent unto you all my servants, the prophets, daily, rising up early and sending. Yet they hearkened not unto me, nor inclined their ear, but hardened their necks. They did worse than their fathers. And God tells Jeremiah here, say, you speak all these words to them, to the people. And people, right now, today, that very same problem exists. God asked them to obey Him, just like He asked Abraham to obey Him and to believe Him and to get up and get out. And Abraham did as Yahweh said. And Yahweh fulfilled His fulfilled His promise to them. Because He told him, Yahweh gave him promised him that if you'll get out and you'll follow me, you believe me, and you get out, and I'll give you the land that you set your feet on. You wander and you follow me, and I'll give you and your children the land that you set your feet on. All that land that you walk through, I'll give to your children. And because of Abraham's belief and faith in God, that he would do what he said he would do, he fulfilled that when the children of Israel crossed that Jordan River. And the first battle they took there was the Battle of Jericho. Yahweh fulfilled that promise to them, that physical land, that carnal land, that earthly land. Yahweh fulfilled that promise to the children of Israel and to Abraham. Even though Abraham didn't see it, his children did. That promise was fulfilled to him. Now the promise that you and I have got is much in the same way, except that it is the spiritual. Yahshua said, if you will put your faith in me, in other words, if you will step out and you will believe me and you will follow me, I'll give you a land that I'm going to go away and prepare for you. And He is going to, one of these days, for all of those that are willing to just simply say, yes, Yahshua, and step out on that faith and walk in His ways that He leads, one of these days, just as the children of Israel crossed the Jordan, and by the way, on dry land, just like the children of Israel did the Red Sea, they crossed it on dry land. They crossed that river. They inherited what Yahweh promised Abraham. If we will follow Him, there is not going to be another generation. There's not going to be another thing. The only other thing that is left is the fulfilling of the promise, or the covenant, if you will, that Yahshua made with the people when He walked upon this land. If you will put your faith in me, I am the light. I am the bread of life. I am the door to the sheepfold. If you will come in this door, you will find pasture. But if you try to climb up any other way, by man's imaginations and the evil thoughts of their own heart, if you try to climb up any other way, you're not going to enter in. But you will if you'll follow him. And that's what I try to teach everybody. I don't try to teach follow him carnally, by the carnal laws that he gave the children of Israel. I try to teach you to follow him spiritually. And he made those commandments spiritual. Just as he made the law of Moses for them to keep, he made that carnal and was administered carnally. This one is made spiritually and is administered spiritually. And that is what we're going to inherit, is the spiritual Jerusalem and the spiritual land that he's preparing for us. Even though all of that will be brought upon this earth after it's purified or cleansed, whatever. All of it will be the new heaven and the new earth. That's what we're looking forward to. That's what I'm not looking backwards at anything. I'm not even looking forward to a third physical temple, if there is one, which the scriptures are iffy on that. Some believe, some don't. Some don't care. But I'm not looking for that, to do sacrifices in it, as they're talking about doing. I'm looking for the new heavens and the new earth. And because I realize right now, as long as my faith is in him, I am the temple. If you will,
Man, that's right.
we are the third temple. We are the temple of the Messiah. I'm not looking to do anything with another one, another physical temple. I'm looking with this one because my faith is in him, not in anything carnal. My faith is in the spiritual. And I don't know if I've said anything today, or if I've made you believe me less or believe me more, or whatever. I don't know. But as this started out in, there's so many out there that says, yes, he's the Messiah, but they're teaching for doctrine their own thoughts and their own imaginations, or at least those that it was of man that it was taught to them. They're teaching that for doctrine. And there is no other doctrine. There is no other way except our faith in him and our walk with him. And like I said, I don't know if I've confused you more or if I've helped you. I don't know. But I've tried to give you my heart. I've tried to give you according to what the Spirit gives me concerning these things. And as concerning the carnal things that man thinks they need to do or should do to show their honor to God, or their love, or to physically walk. Because if we love our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, then we will fulfill the first, I will include honor thy father and mother, the first 5 commandments there. Through our love for him, above anything else. And if we will love our neighbor or our brethren as ourself, then we will fulfill the other ones that pertain to our fellowship with mankind. We will fulfill those.
If you
All 10 are wrapped up in two.
into,
If you understand those, if you understand them. Because if you understand them, if you love your neighbor as yourself or your brother as yourself, you're not going to defraud him. You're not going to kill him. You're not going
steal,
to steal from him. You're not, you're not going to do all. You're not defraud him, or lie to him. Or you're not going to get out here and chase after his belongings
and you will
or
honor.
covet his.
No, if you love him and keep his.
If you
love,
do him, you'll love yourself. If you love him as way you love yourself.
Yes.
And
that
there's very
throws-
seldom that don't. Man,
and-
there ain't too many
And
that
that
don't.
throws you to honor your father and mother. You're not going to do
I mean,
anything
either
against your
that one,
parents
that
if you
one
love
is
them.
that one is fulfilled in all of them.
Yeah.
Or in both of them. But those are what Yahshua said. And I can't make you understand. I can't make you understand that it's not carnal or physical now,
Spiritual
but it's spiritual. I can't make you understand that. That's going to take the Messiah. And nor can I make you understand that the things that you do, you think you can do carnally to show him honor, if you don't really understand the scriptures, can actually deny his power. That he's the power of the Messiah and his ability to keep you. You think you got to do all these other things. You're denying his power to keep you. If you think you got to do these or that you should do these, then you're denying his ability to do it. Because you're putting it back on yourself to do it. I can't make you understand that. And no other man can make you understand that. He might say it in a better words than I said, but he can't make you understand it. It takes a spirit to help us, to make us or cause us to understand
Amen.
his way
Amen.
and his truth and his life.
Thank you.
It takes that spirit. And the scriptures teach it takes that spirit. Those people that, Peter talked about Paul. How people, how that his scripture or his teaching sometimes was hard to understand. And so man wrists it around, or they turn it around to their own destruction and teach it the way they feel that he's teaching it. When you read Paul, which is the apostle to the Gentiles, which that's who you and I are. To start with, that's who we are. When we understand his teaching, he did not teach the law, and that we were to obey it. Not the law of Moses. He did not teach that. And matter of fact, he denied it many times. He showed many times where that was actually a bondage, that it could not save. He even showed that where Jerusalem and the temple and the worship there, and I'm talking about the earthly Jerusalem, was still in bondage. But our faith is in the new Jerusalem, which is the spiritual Jerusalem. He teaches this, But man risks it around to where he taught them, the Gentiles, to obey the law of Moses. He did not teach that. He denied it. He told them. What he taught them was to trust in the Messiah, to put your faith in the Messiah, and that he would lead you and guide you. He would, those that followed him would have love for the brethren, but not for everything else that's out here. Anyway, like I said, I can't make people understand what I'm trying to say. It takes the Spirit to do that, but I hope the Spirit is revealing to you what I'm trying to say to you today, and to get this kind of on the way, because somebody's going to be here shortly. I'll just say, peace be unto you today.